Your metrics might be daily, they might be weekly, and you'll see like, oh my God, X changed, what happened? And so it's really, you've got to build systems where you can have pattern recognition, because the way the web works is you get all your feedback with views, clicks, to his point. People, their feedback is, I'm not going to your website. Like that's it.
Yeah. So there are other tools that actually, I can't remember the name. No, there's actually a tool that'll record video and audio of someone looking at your site.
Testing.com?
Yeah.
You were so excited.
I actually dig this thing. This is so cool. Like you spend $50 and you get 3 people to go to your website, talk into a mic, and you watch their clicks as they're using your product, and they bitch about your stuff. That's cool. Like how often do you get to hear that from real people with like real voice? Like I don't know why is that doing that on that page, and I don't know how to get to here, and I don't know what that means.
What was the name of it?
Usertesting.com. It's very cheap. I mean, it's like sub $50, sub $100 to get multiple people to click around your site, record video and audio. It's very cool. So another tool to play with, especially really early on.
I think the video does like eye tracking too. So it actually
it does like mouse tracking, or like it shows where they are on the page. Shows like what's important to them.
Yeah.
Like we found bugs using it. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting next to him when we were talking about this at an event, and he was watching the video 30 minutes later of people who had just tested the site.
Like the guy was on stage, was like, "Here, try this thing out." I was like,
30 minutes later,
okay.
he was watching the video.
Fill it out. Here's my URL. Here's $50. As the guy's still talking, I'm getting videos, like literally, of like people that have already used my product and have said this sucks, or this is cool, or I like this, or I don't understand what the hell you meant there. It's awesome.
You can make requirements about what they're interested in and a little bit about their demographic. You can't choose everything, not like with Facebook targeting where you can get a little bit more, but you can definitely break things down by sector.
It's pretty cool.
The other thing to remember is when you're building your prototype or your idea out, like, I'm a developer so I can say this, like, developers love to build shit, but the truth of the matter is these days you don't have to write, just like how 5 years ago you never had to write your own database, these days you don't have to write your own thing. There's an open source library, or if there's not an open source library, there's some sort of service that offers it to you for like $9 a month. So building systems, forms, all of these kind of things, you don't need to build anymore. So I talk to people all the time that are business people that have hired like random developers to build stuff. They're like, oh, it's like 6 months away. No, like you should be able to build your idea out within a weekend. Like for 99% of the ideas out there, you should be able to build it within a weekend using open source libraries and shared services on the web. And that's the kind of thing that you want to be doing, because that's the best thing. That's the best way to get actual feedback.
Sure. And I'm curious, do you guys use like Balsamiq? Anybody use that here?
People at my company do, but I use pen and paper.
I use pen and paper.
Balsamiq being a tool, you can draw like UIs very quickly, interfaces very quickly, and see the interaction already. I'm just curious what people are using.
Well, one thing just to talk about Aaron's point about landing page and stuff, like a really good framework for that is Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. The book is kind of fluff, but the appendix is actually a like step-by-step, how to test your idea using that same tactic. And that's actually, I think, how he picked the title for his book and stuff like that. So
There's a lot of free tools to do landing page on Google site optimizer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of free stuff. To get an idea out there and validate it costs a night of not going to the bar to the movies and a little bit of effort.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I won't go on about forms. There's lots and lots of books on all that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any questions about sort of what we're talking about? You, sir.
Hey, Jared. So one thing I would add, instead of GWO, we use I think we use optimizely.com.
Okay.
So it's something that's a lot easier than GWO, and it's like it allows you to dynamically modify your layouts and do A/B testing really quickly and easily.
Okay.
And for almost every language, there's also sort of plugins.
Yeah.
For Rails, there's Vanity. For PHP, there's other ones. So there's a lot of options here.
Anybody use Visual Website Optimizer? That's another good one. It's a competitor to Optimizely. It's also really good. It lets you visually test landing stuff without having to use GWO, which is obviously a bit more technical. Like a designer can use Optimizely or Visual Website Optimizer, whereas a developer, at least a front-end developer, is going to need to use GWO. Other questions?
I see like kind of like two sets of companies. You have the kind of lean startup over here, and then you have like one of the more mature startups from Living Social.
Yep. Just because I'm fat.
That's a mature and then nursery. And like understanding like where you Living Social and ClearSpring were before, how hard was it for you guys to make that pivot? And because of how much investment capital that has been put into your company and all these other investors that are like in your ear trying to, you know, like be there. And so just wondering, like, it seems like it's easier for a lean startup to be like, hey, this is what I want to do. Like, you know, you're 100% equity ownership, you can do whatever you want to do, you know, but when you start getting some investment capital and other people have a say, like, what were the challenges for you guys?
I think it's a really good question. I think the most important thing is anytime you take capital at an early stage, hopefully they care about you and not your idea, because that's all they're really getting. There's a really good chance that anything you came up with the first time to convince them to give you money is going to fail. Like, everyone's ideas fail. Like, look at product companies, look at Flickr, look at PayPal. They were all doing other things. PayPal was beaming cash from Palm Pilots to each other. Obviously, that's not what sold them, right? Like, Nintendo was doing playing cards before they built game consoles. So everyone did something wrong. So if you have investors that actually care about you and trust you, it's a lot easier. So I'd be wary of early, you know, either angel or sort of Series A folks who are hyper-focused on your business model and not on the entrepreneur. And that's a great way to be able to shift. And we were really lucky to have a couple folks that came on, you know, in our Series A that trusted us. We made big bets along the way, and they backed us, and hopefully it works out.
Curious, so it seems to me that you guys are talking about how to pivot when you have a B2C idea, where you're really kind of going out, we're trying to do something that's going to be for the masses. If you've got a B2B idea, so you've got an idea that really you, at least as an individual, if you manage to not get funding from other people, can actually live quite happy if you get a small number of businesses who pay you. Imagine software as a service kind of model here, where in your dream world, it's actually worth a fair amount per month for one person. Now, of course, 0 people still doesn't work. And I think the idea that you need to pivot even in that world is true. But the whole, I'm going to do something instead of going to the bars and then I'm going to have this thing that I, you know, pimp into IBM on Monday doesn't feel quite right. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are for that world and how it differs.
Well, so was something to say something?
Go ahead.
So, I mean, I can speak to that just because everything I've done is B2B, and like, for me, the trick is to stay away from the IBMs, because so using the Notary CRM example, or even the Notfinch example, those are B2B apps that are being paid for out of like a real estate agent's allowance for, you know, marketing. And Notary CRM, like, you know, fundamentally, it's paid for by actually our demographic is stay-at-home moms that are notaries. And paying $29 a month isn't scary when they're not collecting on, you know, 30% of their revenue every month automatically. So I think the crisp answer is that, like, so B2B, I would suggest is even easier to pivot, just because, like, businesses either have money or they don't. But the caveat is that you probably have to aim a little bit lower than IBM because their sales cycle is super, super long.
Yeah, I never meant